Hey everyone, this is Chou, gamification pioneer, international keynote speaker. Welcome to, I guess this is the thing now, Chow's Rambling with Insights, number 4, episode 4. Right now you can tell that my setting is a little bit different. I'm traveling with family in Japan, and behind me is Mount Fuji, one of the most famous mountains in the world. I was actually wondering why, and they were saying that, well, it's a dead volcano that's huge, and it has that layer of ice on top of it, and there's no other mountains competing with it. And so apparently anywhere you see like a huge triangular mountain with ice as the top layer or snow, that's Mount Fuji. That's surprising to me because I thought a lot of mountains would look like that. It's a very generic mountain. Like if you ask a kid to draw a mountain with like snow on the top, I feel like they would just draw that shape. But apparently that shape is unique. It's just Mount Fuji. So yeah, I think we're gonna wrap up the year. And actually, it's funny because there's so many things to do before the year ends. You know, there's all the donations you gotta do before taxes, and sometimes I wait for the last moment, last day of December, and then I do the donation last day of December, but then it counts as January 1st when it's in the record, so that doesn't work out very well. But overall, I say it's a very blessed year. As you know, cryptocurrency is doing quite well, so I've been selling. So okay, so let me just go through this one in this video. So remember in the video 1 I talked about my strategy for investment is very simple. I like to find volatile things to invest in, but I use a very conservative strategy, and it's very simple. It's very just buy low, sell high. So first of all, you got to believe in the future of it, okay? So I like volatile things which are usually technology based, because commodities, all those things, they're pretty stable, but technology is something that could change 50 times, 100 times higher in the future, right? So I like these kind of, but of course get dropped because there's a lot of speculation. And I like speculation type of assets because that's my background, behavioral psychology, and looking at the fundamentals, all that stuff sometimes takes a lot of time, but just knowing consumer psychology and jumping in and buy low, sell high is pretty straightforward, and I can control my emotions. So what I do is generally number 1, but like, okay, so a few principles. Let's stay with, there's 3 principles. Number 1, if you want to invest in something volatile, you want to only put in money you can lose 100% of. Like if you lose all of it, it's not going to destroy your life. It's not going to make you give up. It's just fun gambling money. Okay, that's tip number 1. Oh, this is not financial advice. I'll just tell you what I do, okay? So, so generally what I do, I make sure I don't put in money that I can't afford to lose, okay? That's number 1. Number 2 is I want to make sure that it's something I believe 10 years later it'll be bigger, not smaller. And that's a lot of technology, right? I believe 10 years later, more people will be using commerce and not less people using commerce. I believe 10 years later, there's going to be more AI, not less AI. There's more people, Bitcoin's going to be bigger than now, not smaller than now. So that's how I think about investing. You believe in the long-term future, right? And I think technology is good. Now, some people's like, well, how do you know? Like, not every good technology is successful. Look at Yahoo. It used to be amazing and then it drops. But if you're a user of technology, you would see signs like, oh, people are not using Yahoo anymore. They're using Google now for like, I'd say 1 to 3 years before the actual stock crashes. You'll be able to tell like a technology is not the future anymore. So you have to have conviction. That's number 2, which is very, very important. Number 3, what I make sure is that I buy low, sell high. So if I believe in the future, then when it drops, I just keep buying. When it goes up, I keep selling. And this is very straightforward, but a lot of people can't control their emotions very well. And what they do is when it's up, they're like, wow, this is amazing. Now this is proven, has all this momentum, and they buy. And when it drops, I've seen very respected financial professionals do this too. When it drops, like, oh, it's so scary, it's going to die, we should exit. So they keep buying high and selling low. And so for me, when it's going up, sometimes you don't know, right? It's like, hey, it could go even higher or it could drop. What I do is I optimize for my emotions, my happiness. because I think the most expensive thing is constantly being stressed and upset and watching this obsessively and regretting. So what I always do is when it's like really high, and which means it's covering what they call the resistance line, which means it's usually it means it's the previous highest point, based on whatever period you're looking at. I sell like 1/3 of what I have. So what that means is that if it goes down, I'm pretty happy, right? Hey, I proactively sold 1/3, and since it's a very volatile market, selling 1/3 oftentimes means I already made back all the money I put in. But if it goes up, then my 2/3 is like gaining value. So I'm also happy. So it doesn't matter if it goes up or down. I'm just happy, and I think that's the most important thing. I feel like I'm a clever person doing this investment thing. Okay, so when it drops, I usually think about tiers. So every like 20%, I will put in like 1/5 what I have reserved to put in. So it drops 1/5, drops, I buy 1/5, drops, I buy 1/5. If it goes up to a pretty high point, like a previous high point, I sell 1/3. If it goes up, I sell 1/3. If it keeps going up, I keep selling 1/3. If it drops, I buy, I guess, 1/5. So it's not always scientific. Sometimes just get a feel of it. But this is why right now with cryptocurrency, I'm selling, right? Well, in the past few days, it's dropped a bit. So when it's low, let's just go with Bitcoin price, right? Bitcoin price. I think the most typical classic example is that when the high point is 21,000, it dropped at 15. I bought. It dropped to 12,000. I bought. It dropped to 9,000. I bought. It dropped to 5,000. I bought. Dropped to 3,000. I bought. And of course, obviously now it's like more than 100K. So all of that was successful, right? But I didn't keep it all to 100K. When it reached 21K again, I sell 1/3. When each 40,000, I sell 1/3 of what I have there. When it's like 60K, and then so I keep taking cash out. Now, does that mean I don't get the same upside as everyone else who's like going all in, putting all their money and staying to the very end? Yes, I don't have that. But when it crashes and it drops, I don't lose that much money too, because I keep withdrawing, right? So when it crashes, I buy, and when it goes up, I sell. Pretty straightforward. So once it hits the previous high point, which is 61,000, I start selling. Sell. Recently, there's been a drop of like 20-30%, so I bought more. And so again, this is just a simple strategy. I'm not even sure it's like worth going through, like having a course about it, writing a book, but it's very simple. I feel like a lot of it's common sense, but I've been very, very successful. Like I made over $1 million just with this simple strategy. Okay. Probably more, maybe, I don't know. Like, could it be more than 2 million? I'm not sure. I don't count that. Not just with crypto, right? With things like Tesla, with Zoom at the time, because I believed it was going to be the future. And then at one point, I sold it. So you would only sell all of it when you no longer believe it's the future. It's like 10 years later, this is not going to be around. That's when you sell. As long as your conviction is there, you keep it. Just buy low, sell high. It's on a discount. When it's low, it's on sale. When it's high, you make money from it. Very straightforward, and it helps generate cash flow to fund a lot of projects I'm doing. And again, it's kind of weird that I'm like, hey, episode number 4 about like just rambling with insights, and I'm not Fuji, and I'm giving like not advice. I'm giving not advice on how I manage my investments. Yeah, even though I'm not even a branded professional on these things, but just trying to share some of my mindset. You can agree, disagree. Don't follow it, and if you do follow it, if it doesn't work well for you, don't blame me for it. I'm just sharing like what has worked out for me, right? And like for almost everything, like it's this strategy only fails if you didn't see what like you think this is gonna be the future. It's gonna 10x, and it wasn't the future. Like maybe like what would be an example? Like virtual worlds, right? Or at this point anyway, who knows? Or 3D printing. Unfortunately, I did think it would be cool. It's gonna grow, but it kind of just got stuck there and dropped. So I did stop believing the momentum. So I did exit that position. I think with some loss, not a lot, some loss. Obviously, how much money you put in also depends on how much conviction you have for it to be in the future. Yeah. So anyway, So I'll just end with one extra example, and then we'll end here, I guess. So like Tesla, right? Before Tesla's was at, this is before it split like 5 ways or something, like a stock split. So at the time, this is 2019, I think, 19. Tesla went from the high point of 360, I believe, 380, 360, dropped to 220. And then I'm like, oh, well, previously 3, 4, 5 years ago, it also got to 360 before. So I feel like it at least can go back to 360 because it shows the psychological appetite of the stock is 360 at least. But in those 3, 5 years, you know, they had Model 3 before they didn't. They went from, I don't know, like 10,000 cars a year to like 500,000 cars a year. Like the fundamentals keep improving and people have a psychological appetite for this. Like some stocks are solid, foundational, strong, but people are not interested, not sexy, not cool. So people don't have the psychological appetite for it. But Tesla was, right? And so at that time, I literally sold all my other positions and just put everything in Tesla. And so again, this is the thing. I told some friends that I was doing too, and so they did it. And it went from 220 to 440. Well, I sold some in 360, like I said. And I sold maybe half of it at 420 or 440, I think. And then at 540, I sold all of it. And this was not following my own strategy. The reason why I sold all of it is because that was a COVID hit, right? And that was a pattern I didn't recognize. I didn't know what was going to happen. And China really depended on the Shanghai factory at the time. So I'm like, okay, I don't know this pattern. I'm not fully confident that this is absolutely going to be the future. So I sold at 540 just to see what happens. And then crazy, in a couple months, I remember it went from like 540 to 3,000. That was crazy. I still don't know why that happens. I'm not I know it all, right? I don't know why that happens. I was busy doing my startups and whatnot. So it was unfortunate, but I feel like it was still fine because I bought at 220 and I sold at 440, half of it. I sold at 550, the other half. I still more than doubled my money. It's just that I didn't 10x my money, right? So I jokingly say, hey, I'm not greedy. I happily double up my money every year. That's fine with me, or triple my money, right? Which is tongue in cheek because obviously doubling money every year safely is a very, very powerful thing. But my friends who just went all in, they never sold. They did go 10 times more. They made 10x the money. But they also were at risk at losing all of it, right? When you read Elon Musk's bio, you read there are actually moments of time where they were a few days away from making payroll and they could go down like crazy. So I think you can't go back in time and you can't regret if I wrote these numbers in the lottery, I would have won the lottery, right? It makes no sense. The best thing you can do is look ahead and understand what's going on and with your risk profile, make the best bet and best decision. And so I think it's following my strategy. So the only thing that didn't follow my strategy was selling all of it at 540. I should have sold 1/3 at 540, and if I kept going, then everything works out, right? But at that moment, I was like, I don't know if Tesla's gonna be the future with COVID going on and killing the Shanghai factory. Anyway, that's today's Rambling with Insights. I'm not sure if I can do more in Japan, but just miss you guys, even though it's my family. So hopefully we'll see you soon. Probably go back to talking about my book, 10,000 Hours of Play, 6 Steps, and whatnot. All right, this is Chou, signing off.